What is your favorite weapon in the finals? Think about your answer carefully, because this determines a lot about your personality. You see, here at the Scientific Hyper Institute of Theory, we've been observing and studying the patterns of behavior exhibited by the different types of players in the finals, and what we have found is that the single biggest determining factor that correlates with a player's personality type isn't their favorite specialization, but rather their favorite weapon. Which is why today, we're going to be presenting our findings for what your favorite weapon in the finals says about you. Alright, there's no need to make this intro much longer. You know how these videos work. Timestamps in the description if you want to use them. We're going to go through the weapons class by class in alphabetical order, starting with the mosquitoes.
Bro, I'm really about to get your pickle chin that boy. Egg on that collard green head that boy.
I had a whole paragraph typed out about how 9-3R mains were just holding on to the glory days of when it was completely busted, but Embark just decided to rebuff this weapon for the 90th time, so it's probably overpowered again. To be honest, if anything, 9-3R mains are probably some of the most paranoid players in the finals, because they have no clue if the weapon they're enjoying today will be dog shit tomorrow, and vice versa. They might be respected by the entire player base for using the 9-3R during one of its dog shit phases, only to be caught a sweatlord when Embark buffs it again 2 fucking days later. Embark fucks with this weapon so often that by the time I finish this video, they'll probably nerf the buff they just gave it. As a matter of fact, I'm editing the video and I just found out they did nerf it. Nah, I'm just fucking with you, but you believed me for a second, didn't you? I'm sure plenty of people like the ARN-220 because it's a perfectly good weapon, but I get the feeling that most ARN-220 mains use the weapon because they want to look like a super sick tactical contestant, and I really can't blame them. To be honest, I think the ARN feels kind of flat when you shoot it, but it is a pretty sexy weapon. Embark seems hell-bent on having all of their best skin designers making skins exclusively for this weapon. So even though a lot of people are using the ARN because of how good it is, I'd wager most ARN mains just want to show off the drip to their homies. Hell, even I was swayed into buying that Lotus Reaper bundle because of how good the ARN-220 skin looked for that one. If you're a Dagger main, no you're not. Listen, Dagger mains aren't real, so stop lying. I know you're an undercover sword main, but this is a safe space. You can be honest with me, okay? LH1 mains are some of the most terrifying players you'll ever come across in the finals. There's not a whole lot of them, so people oftentimes forget they exist, meaning they spend all their time perfecting their management of this weapon's recoil pattern in the shadows where nobody notices. But since the LH1 is one of the project guns that Embark feels the need to fuck with every 5 seconds, then every once in a while the LH1 will get that one buff that was just a little bit too much, and the LH1 mains will come out of the shadows and dominate the arena. No matter what range you're at, if they see you, you're dead. Then Reddit will complain and the LH1 and all of its players will be forgotten all over again. Until next time, that is. M11 players are the pumpkin spice latte Snapchat dog filter basic bitches of the light class. You loaded up the finals and were instantly told by Embark that the best bet for light class was to use the most mindless weapon that requires 0 neuron activation to succeed with. There's another basic bitch weapon in this game and we'll talk about that one later, but you can at least make the argument that that one requires good aim. The M11 is such a low attention span, low effort weapon that it attracts some of the worst personalities in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised if half of you M11 mains were playing the finals while scrolling TikTok on the side. Do you guys even exist? Recurve bow mains remind me of that kid who tried way too hard to be cool in middle school. It's me. I was that kid. But I kinda got over that, and now I just embrace my cringe. But recurve bow mains refuse to do that. They just have to prove that they're better than you, and to do that, they're gonna use one of the most demanding weapons in the game when it comes to positioning, aim, predicting enemy movements, and any other skill that's a lot less important for literally any other weapon. Why do you do this to yourself, man? Do you just like to suffer or something? But in all seriousness, most people don't survive the initial filter of needing all the aforementioned skills to succeed with the recurve bow, so they go back to maining the sniper and power shift or something like that. But the ones who do survive will give you nightmares for the rest of your fucking days. Go fuck yourself. Alright, I'm just kidding, but I'm not gonna be nice either. If I had to make a guess about what a SH1900 main did in their free time, I would assume that the second they get off the finals, they open up social media and just start rage baiting everyone with random bullshit to the point where they end up contradicting themselves. They'll go on NASA's page telling everyone the Earth is flat, then right after that, they'll go on a flat Earth page and tell them the Earth is round. Consistency doesn't matter at all to them, because if it did, they would be using a weapon that's a lot more likely to make them win. But this isn't about winning.
It's about sending a message.
If you main the SR-84, or Sniper as most people call it, then there's a 98% chance that you're also a Power Shift main. Power Shift gives you the perfect target-rich environment where you'll almost always know where at least a couple of people on the enemy team are, so you can just post up nearby and take some pot shots at them. And for a good chunk of the light player population, all that thinking about where the enemies are gonna be and scouting them out shit is just a little bit too much work, which is why if you went to play Cash Out after playing Power Shift for a while, you'd be forgiven for thinking that all the Sniper mains were killed by a fucking virus or something. I can think of 2 people who played the SR-84 in Cash Out, and to be honest, I don't think it's even their main weapon, just one of their favorites. There's 2 types of sword mains in the finals. There's the sword mains from before Season 7 who hop on the finals every once in a while, trying to relive the glory days of when the sword wasn't just mouse 1 spamming, only to be forced with the horrible realization that those days are over. And then there's the post-Season 7 sword mains who could never get a hang of all that sword lunge shit, but once Embark massacred the sword and made left-click spamming the most optimal way to play the weapon, these guys picked up the sword as a mindless way to stomp on lower skill players. Funny how these days the sword is exactly what people who hated it before Season 7 accused it of being, but I'm sure the calls to nerf sword are finally over now, right? Throwing knife mains are all the worst parts of double barrel mains, with one horrible twist. These guys are oftentimes good enough to actually win matches. Being rage baited by a double barrel main at least has the consultation that there's a decent chance you'll beat them in the end, but a throwing knife main is likely to also be someone who's just good at the finals in general, so when you come face to face with one who's been playing for a good while, they're probably gonna run circles around you and make you question how the fuck you just lost to someone who is literally just throwing knives. It's even more embarrassing if they're using the chanclas. Aside from that one time at the beginning of Season 9, the V9S mains have always flown under the radar, and something tells me they prefer it to be that way. Funnily enough, the V9S seems to be played by people who just want to hop on the game and chill for a while without bringing too much attention to themselves. I can think of plenty of instances where I encountered a toxic light player, but I've never ran into a toxic V9S player. They seem to take the game a lot less serious than the other light mains, and as a result, their skill level varies, but at the end of the day, I'd rather lose with a chill V9S main than win with a toxic M11 player who took a break from scrolling TikTok to call me a bean. XP54 mains, or MP5 as I like to call it, are really just M11 mains with an attention span that hasn't been rotted from scrolling TikTok all day. And as a result, they put their time into a weapon that actually requires a bit more brain power to work consistently. Now there's a lot more MP5 mains than there are mains for something like the LH1, but much like the LH1, the MP5 is one of Embark's project guns, so every once in a while it gets a buff that was just a little bit too much, and as a result, the MP5 will be the most used weapon in the arena. This is made worse by the fact that unlike the LH1, the MP5 is extremely easy to pick up and use, which will make more people hop onto the MP5 bandwagon to the point where anytime the MP5 is a little bit overpowered, you'll know because it'll basically be the only weapon that light players use until it gets nerfed again. All of this is to say that you never really notice the MP5 mains until one of the times where the MP5 is busted, because when it is, everyone is an MP5 main.
Just having fun with off limits in Mister's house.
Nigga, did I just catch you having fun? Sweet Jesus! Lord have mercy! My baby!
AKM mains desire the simple things in life, be it a nice cup of coffee or an easy-to-use gun in a video game. AKM mains probably aren't going to be pub stomping or anything, but in a game filled with all sorts of wacky guns and weapons that you don't really see as often, if at all, in other video games, having that one guy who shows up with one of the most generic weapons in human history is a bit of a welcome sight. You want me to use crossbow? Yet, rifle is fine. Alright, be honest with me. You became a repeater main after it became meta back in Season 8, didn't you? Jokes aside, I think the window of time where the repeater was overpowered was a good thing for the weapon overall, because it introduced a lot of people to a weapon that they might have slept on otherwise. Yeah, this is Hyperborean speaking. Wait, what do you mean it's still busted? Cerberus mains once had aspirations of being a Model 1887 main, until they realized getting good with the model would require good aim. So they went and settled on a weapon with half the ammo, but also half the aiming skill required to succeed. But aside from that one time back in Season 6 where Embark buffed the Cerberus a little bit too much, Cerberus mains really aren't all that noteworthy. And it's not to say you don't notice them at all in game, cause trust me, you'll notice them when they show you the blinding light of Dragon's Breath.
Tung 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 sahur.
Chimera mains are the new kid on the block, but don't make the mistake of assuming they're also new players to the finals. More than likely, these guys are all a bunch of refugees who wanted a new semi-automatic weapon to main on the medium class after the PIKE 556 was massacred back in Season 8. Now, I'm not sure how many Chimera mains are gonna exist when this weapon inevitably gets dumpstered by Embark, so I don't have much else to say about them. Unfortunately, because this is a fairly new weapon and a pretty good one at that, I'm still trying to figure out what an actual Chimera main will be like after all the tourists are gone.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
I know Dual Blades players get a lot of bad rap from people who act like it's one of the hardest weapons in the game to counter because they can't be bothered to use fire, explosives, goo, movement, gadgets, or even just shoot the guy from multiple angles with a buddy of yours, but I actually have a huge amount of respect for Dual Blades players. The reason being that it has consistently been one of the most dogshit weapons since they were added back in Season 3, and even after the buff they gave it back in Season 9, they're still considered one of the worst weapons in the game. If you have the gumption to stick it out with this weapon, you might not win that many matches, but I'm rooting for you. Genuine question, do you guys still play the game? I feel like FAMAS mains are no longer on speaking terms with Embark after those nerfs they got last year. Or maybe they moved on to greener pastures in general. The point is, I haven't seen one in months, which is probably why Embark tried to win them back with that buff they put out not too long ago, but it doesn't look like it worked. If you're a FAMAS main listening, please come back to the finals. All we have left to fight now is a bunch of fucking FCAR mediums. Speaking of which, FCAR players are the pumpkin spice latte Snapchat dog filter basic bitches of the medium class. If you're an FCAR main, you're probably the type of guy who thinks you're the super unique underdog in this game while also being the type of guy to complain when you have to fight something off meta like melee or a sniper or literally anything other than the FCAR or some other full auto weapon. Because for some reason you loaded up the finals and wanted it to play like Call of Duty or Apex Legends or some shit. And to be honest, considering how much Embark themselves seem to hate it when something besides auto slop becomes meta or when people use weapons with tech, I can't really blame you for having this take. Much like the bow mains, Model 1887 mains have this drive to use weapons with a high skill floor because they just have to prove they're better than everyone else. But unlike bow mains, there was once a time where the Model 1887 was genuinely meta. Back in Season 4, most of the medium weapons were kinda dog shit, but the defib was busted. So half of the teams in the game were 3-stack mediums using Model with the defib since they really complemented each other. But these days, the Model 1887 is pretty much only being used by high-level medium players who want to pub stomp in casual game mode. Which is to say that model players aren't very common anymore, but when you run into one, they're probably going to be one of those crazy movement gods who never misses a shot and makes you say, why the fuck are you not playing ranked whenever they kill you? I got a conspiracy theory, and that conspiracy theory is that P90 players are actually just M11 players who broke out of the light main matrix but couldn't vibe with the other medium weapons, so they went from the most bland and brainless weapon on the light class to the most bland and brainless weapon on the medium class, the P90. And these P90 players bring all of their M11 habits with them. Seriously, pay attention to these guys and you'll notice how they pretty much play just like light players without dash. They're aggressive, they rely entirely on their movement and aim to get them through a match, and if they're on your squad, they're calling you slurs in chat. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know shit about Pike players, so I'm gonna need help with this one. Hey Combo, would you mind filling in for me here?
So, out of every weapon in the game, you decided to pick the Pike 5.56. Look man, we all think you're a hipster, we all think you're really cool, but at the same time, let's just have a little sit-down conversation. Let me put my hand on your shoulder. The glory days are gone, my friend. Embark will never buff this thing to a 3-shot body shot because the top 1% of players could land all 3 body shots, and let me tell you, that wasn't very fun to play against. Not to mention the fact that, yeah, it has a ton of recoil, yeah, you need headshots to really be competitively viable, but understand, those poor Ruby Light mains that got 3 taps to the body. Look man, as I said, you're using a weapon that takes a lot of skills, so you gotta look at me in the eyes and say, I will not get angry when I get outdueled by every single gun in the game, because as we both know, we're doing this in hopes that one day the Pike will return to its former glory, although we both know Embark has a mysterious way of breaking our hearts.
Jesus Christ, I get it. You like Red Dead Redemption and Fallout New Vegas. Now can you please get off of my porch?
Oh, Riot Shield. I'm a pussy, I use Riot Shield.
I know Riot Shield players get a lot of bad rap from people who act like it's one of the hardest weapons in the game to counter because they can't be bothered to use fire, explosives, goo, movement gadgets, or even just shoot the guy from multiple angles with a buddy of yours. But I got a lot of respect for Riot Shield players. Not because you stuck it out with a dogshit weapon like the Dual Blades players did, but because most Riot Shield players I run into are pretty goated support players. They're probably not gonna frag out like crazy or anything, but they are almost guaranteed to have the highest support score in the lobby. As a heavy main, I thank you for that. And while we're on the topic of heavy players,
what are you doing over here, Anthony? Is that that's Fat Vin Diesel?
Fast and Furious.
Oh my god!
You know, these days, it's not often that Embark is right about something, but I think what they said about the Deagles is the perfect description of its players. It's a fairly popular weapon, but most people aren't doing that great with it. Which is to say that most Deagle mains are kinda mid at the game. But you don't play the Deagles cause you're good. No, you play the Deagles because they have the fucking sauce, bro. I mean, come on, this weapon sounds great, feels great to shoot, and just look at that reload. By the way, that's the default reload. The BFR is another one of those weapons that had its time in the sun, then fell off of a fucking cliff. The weapon had a somewhat high skill floor back when it released, but getting past this skill floor wasn't really that difficult to be honest. My aim is fucking trash and even I was popping off with the BFR. And I think Embark realized this because they nerfed the BFR multiple times, and now only the most dedicated fans who really learned the quirks of this weapon are left. Or at least that's what I'm assuming, because I don't think I've seen a single BFR player for about 3 months now. Maybe they left with the FAMAS players or something.
And once you've marinated your chicken for long enough, you pop them on top of your barbecue. Look at those coals. You can see that lovely sort of white sort of dust there that's collected around that coals. That's the indication that it's ready to cook. To get to that stage, once you've lit your barbecue, it's probably going to take anywhere up sort of 40 minutes, maybe even an hour, till they kind of die down like that. And that will avoid it sort of burning. You know, you don't want to burn your meat or fish.
Oh, so that's where the BFR mains went. Lewis gun mains never really left after Season 1, but they've been through some highs and lows, and currently, I'd say Lewis gun mains are chillin'. They had their time in the sun, and when they were asked to step aside so some other heavy weapons could take their spot, they did so without going to Reddit and bitching that their super busted gun was brought down to the level of just being good. But to be honest, I think Lewis mains have every right to bitch, because what the fuck is this recoil pattern? I can't really narrow down the type of person who mains minigun to anything less than 3 types of minigun mains. 1. You hate shield spammers. 2. You hate light mains but want to melt them with bullets instead of fire. Or 3. You played a lot of Team Fortress. Let me know which one you are. Also, if Embark fucks up the melee rework, I'm probably gonna become a minigun main myself, because as much as I love the hammer, I can only take so much pain before giving up. M60 mains. I was almost one of you at some point before I found out how fun power bashing light mains with the hammer was. I see a decent amount of M60 mains in the arena, but I'm surprised I don't see more of them. Even at its worst, the M60 has always been a solid weapon, and it's been in the game since like day one of the closed alpha. I mean shit, if you're a heavy player who's been playing since launch, it was literally the first weapon Embark gave us. But because most heavies found a weapon they liked even more, M60 mains are now in this funny situation of being someone who has hundreds of hours in the finals, or someone who just installed the game and is about to find out how bad the smurfing problem is. MGO32 mains. I was almost one of you at some point before I realized how dogshit the MGO32 is. If you main the MGO32, then you know what it feels like to be the middle child in a family. You get promised all these great things by your parents but never get any of it. You have to suffer in silence because anytime you try to talk about your problems, your siblings tell you how they have it worse than you, and half the time your parents forget you exist until you end up in a situation where you almost die. Then once they make sure that you're still breathing, they go back to their favorite kid. I don't know why it's taken so long for Embark to release that rework they promised like 2 fucking years ago, but I do know someone else who can relate to your pain. Alright, let's be real for a second. If you're maining the SA-1216, it's because you're trying to go pro. The SA-1216 is still one of the greatest weapons on the heavy class even after all of this time, but nobody who actually wants to have fun on this game bothers using it because learning that recoil requires a good amount of time commitment, and even if you do learn it, it just doesn't feel that good to use. Despite being a full auto shotgun, the SA-1216 actually has a relatively high skill floor while simultaneously lacking the sauce that makes other weapons fun to use, which is why the only people who bother using it are people who put being a high-ranked player above having fun, unlike the next weapon. Alright, I'm gonna have to slander my goat here, but the Shaq 50 is probably the most brainless, easy to use weapon on the heavy class right now, and it's kinda sad to see, because although I never mained it, it's always been one of my favorite heavy weapons ever since it released. But from what I know, it's getting pretty popular in pro play and public lobbies, especially because you can just bundle it with the winch claw for even easier kills. So now everyone is a Shaq 50 main. And because Embark refuses to do a fucking thing about the winch claw, another one of my favorite weapons is gonna get nerfed, and all the fucking Shaq tourists we have right now are just gonna move on to the next fragging weapon, while the Shaq mains that were always here get stuck with a fucking Nerf dart shooter.
4 joueurs. Exclusivement sur Nintendo 60.
If you're a hammer main, I got a feeling that in real life, you're probably a Giga Chad who gets hella bread, hella bitches, and probably drives a Bugatti. I am not biased whatsoever. Alright, in all seriousness, I think it's important to distinguish between the two types of hammer mains out there, because I've had so many people come up to me like, bro, I'm a hammer main and the hammer deserved a nerf. Then when I ask them what kind of hammer main they are, they try to hide their winch claw like it wasn't the first thing they showed me when I met them. There are non-winch hammer mains and there are winch hammer mains, and as far as I'm concerned, all you winch hammer mains can go sit over at the table with the Shaq 50 winch claw players, cause you ain't one of us.
You can't sit with us! Oh, Hyper, stop acting like you're better than me because you don't use the winch claw with the hammer.
I'm not acting. I am better than you. I started maining the hammer way before all of you fucking winch heavies showed up, and I learned the fucking movement text, I learned all the fucking hit combos, I learned every little trick to get good with this weapon, just for all of you little shits to blow up and be like, oh, look at me with my winch claw and hammer, I'm so good with this weapon. Meanwhile, it's the specialization that carried your ass to victory. The next thing you know, the hammer gets absolutely ass fucked by Embark. Oh, and don't think I didn't notice that half you motherfuckers left after the hammer got nerfed, while the rest of us got stuck with a fucking pool noodle for a weapon. But if you're a non-winch hammer main, then you're invited to the cookout. I am so lonely. All the other heavy mains are scared of me. No one talks to me. No one wants to play with me. They think I am unstable. They send me from platform to platform, doing spear spins in their name. And as I get better at it, they ignore my friend requests more and more. I am a victim of my own success. Power shift teammate. I don't even get to play cash out. I am capable of so much more, and no one can see it. Some days I feel so useless that I think about asking for a buff on Reddit, but I don't. Because what would be the point? Not a single person at Embark Studios would care. Alright boys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Before I go, I just want to state that everything I said in this video is 100% fact, and if you have a problem with that, then I am more than open to hearing you out so long as you present your counter argument in the form of a 5-paragraph essay with references in the comment section. Alright, that ought to fend off all the Adderall addicted Zoomers who can't write anything without AI doing the work for them or just saying skill issue in the comments. As for the rest of you, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. You might not know this, but every time someone subscribes to my channel, a Winchclaw Hammer main steps on an explosive mine and fucking dies. I want to go ahead and give a huge shout out to Comes In Combo. Not only did he do the voiceover for the entirety of the Pike segment, but you also probably noticed that he helped record some of the gameplay used in this video. And I also want to give a shout out to Luke on Steam who, funny coincidence, made a pretty similar video for heavy weapons. We didn't steal each other's ideas guys, I promise it was a coincidence. Anyways, I didn't really think of an outro beyond that, so thank you to all the amazing members of the Zorpian Empire for their continued support. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.